My wife wanted a little table to go back in that corner right back there, just to put drinks on while you're sitting, in one of those chairs. So I went into the warehouse and found this old cedar board, and we're going to make this nasty old cedar board into a cool little table. First thing I'm going to do is get the top glued up, get it in clamps, and then start working on the base while it's drying. So we're going to cut two pieces off here. This whole table is going to be made out of this one board. So those first two pieces are going to be the top. We're going to get them milled up on the joiner and the planer. Get the bottom flat, get a side at 90, and then get the top flat through the planer, which is what I'm doing now. And then they're ready to go on the clamps. This is the kind of glue up I love. It's just a real simple two pieces of wood going together. It can't be much easier than that. I just put those little two clamps on to keep everything straight while I get my pipe clamps tightened down, and then those will come off. Now this is my great design. I really don't have a good plan on what I'm doing. I'm just getting a rough idea here on a piece of paper. That's roughly the shape the leg is going to be. So I said this whole table was made out of that one piece of wood. I had a piece of 6x6 cedar that I am using for the middle piece for the base. And I got it all squared up on the joiner and the planer, all the old nasty stuff cleaned off. And now I just drew a line down the center. I figured out how wide my piece was, and I'm using that same length to go up to that center mark on my board to make a triangle. I hope that made sense. Didn't really make sense to me. I'm trying to figure it out as I'm going along here. But and now I'm just double checking it because I don't do a lot of stuff like this, so I wanted to make sure that it was right. So I'm just checking my angles. All three corners look the same, so it actually so what I did worked. Now it was a little longer than it was than that one end was, so I'm cutting the excess off that one side. And now I'm using my I don't know what you call that tool, little angle finder. I'm using it to set my blade, and I actually didn't get it set exactly right. You'll see me adjust it after the first cut. And honestly, my triangle does not come out perfect, and it gets a little hairy at the end trying to get it cut out. You see, here's where I'm adjusting my blade, and now I'm happy with it. But it doesn't come out perfect, but that's only if you're measuring it. I mean, to look at it, it looked pretty darn good when I got done. And Jimmy DeRista, if it looks straight, it is straight, or if it looks square, it is square. Well, if it looks like a triangle, then it's a triangle. So this is where it gets hairy. I'm trying to figure out how to get this last cut done. I couldn't think of a good way to do it, so if you're extremely safety conscious, close your eyes for a minute, because this wasn't great, but I just couldn't think of a better way to get this done. So I'm lining up the point of my triangle on the bottom there, and I'm gonna get this last cut done. Close your eyes. Here it goes. And the last cut is done. They didn't line up exactly right, but they're close enough. I'm gonna run them over the joiner a few times to make the faces flat. And like I said, if you got out and measured it, I'm sure it's not a perfect triangle anymore, but it looks good enough to me. Now we're going to get started on the legs. This is the last pieces of that one single board, and I'm going to cut those in half long ways, so I'll end up actually with 4 blanks, and I only needed 3, but The fourth one was kind of my test piece because I'm just figuring this out as I go. I've never done anything with 3 legs before. Everything I've built has always had 4 legs, and that was one of the reasons I was excited about doing this. I wanted to do something with 3 legs. So right now I'm measuring the height. I've got a 15-degree angle cut on the bottom of the leg already because I'm going to splay them out 15 degrees. And now that the table's done, I should have splayed them out more than that, and I'll show you that at the very end of the video. But I've got them splayed out 15 degrees. I used my T-square there to measure up to the height I wanted my leg to be. And then this line I'm drawing right now, like I said, I'm just seeing what it looks like. I'm going to cut all that off. That'll be a taper cut at the end. So I've got my 15-degree cut on the top and bottom of all 3 of my legs, and now this cut I'm making here is going to be the flat spot that goes up against that triangle piece that goes in the middle. So I'm setting up a stop block so I can make that cut 3 different times. And that 15-degree cut that's flat on top is going to go up against my fence, and then my saw is set at 90, so that's giving me a good 90-degree side up there on the top that's going to go against that triangle. And I don't know if all that makes sense, but hopefully it will as you see it come together. Now this is my taper jig, and I love this thing, but it will not go over far enough for the taper I'm wanting to put on these legs. So I'm going to have to go back to the good old piece of plywood and some scraps. I just pulled some scraps out of my trash can. I lined my taper that I want, my line I've drawn on there along the edge of the plywood, and then I'm just nailing down some scraps to that piece of plywood, some good reference spots so all the legs can easily set in there. I know exactly where they go. And there's my taper. I'll show one more close-up shot of that. I was really happy with how this turned out at the end, but like I was saying earlier, I should have put it. Now, before I go into all that, I have that flat spot on those legs that's going against the triangle. I know how long that is, so now I'm making my triangular piece that length. And I'll show you why in a minute. I'm going to be putting all that together with dowels, and I want those 2 to be the same length so I can just reference the ends of each one with my dowel jig. And hopefully that'll make a lot more sense here in just a minute. So now that's the same length as that flat spot on those legs. Now I'm setting this together, and those points sticking out of my triangle just looked a little funny to me. So I cut those off. You can see here in this shot they're gone. And I'm actually glad they're gone because it would have been really hard to clamp this up with those there. With them gone, it left a flat spot for me to clamp against. So definitely made things a lot easier. Now this dowel jig is amazing. It works really, really well. I love this thing. And normally it just clamps itself to the piece that you're doweling. But this weird shape, as you can see, there was nothing for it to clamp to, so I had to use a clamp to hold it in place. But it did center itself, which is the other thing that it does that I love. So it did center itself on the piece. I just had to use another clamp to hold it in place while I put those dowels holes in. And on the leg, you can see how it's supposed to work. So I just referenced the top spot. I referenced the bottom. Put 2 more holes down there, so I've got 4 dowels in each leg, and after I get it glued up, it's as strong as can be. It's not going anywhere. Use my little magnet stop there to reference to make my dowel cuts. And this is a little step that makes using dowels so much easier. If you just put a little round over on the ends of each dowel on both ends, it makes it so much easier putting everything together. Okay, what I was talking about a minute ago, I said earlier that I wish I would have done a bigger angle than 15 degrees on my legs, and I'll show you at the very end of the video. If you push down on the wrong spot of the table, it falls over. And like I said, I've never done anything with 3 legs before. This was all just, you know, playing around and test piece, if you will. I really love the way it looks, but either the middle piece needs to be bigger to put the legs out further, the tabletop needs to be smaller, or a bigger angle on the legs. And you know, I didn't. This is the size I wanted my table, so I either needed a bigger thing in the middle, or my legs splayed out more. And it works fine. We love it. You just you know, don't need to be pushing down in the wrong spot on the table. And I'll show you at the end what I'm talking about. But still happy with it. I still love it. The next time I build it, I'll build it a little different. So we'll put that in clamps. We'll go home for the night, and get everything back out of clamps the next day, and start getting everything rounded over and sanded down and put together. So I'm back to work the next day. You know, you saw the clothes I was in before. That was my day off. This is officially a day I'm working, but it's my shop and I'm the owner, so I can work on my own project if I want to. So I'm gonna get this thing finished. So right now I'm just finding the center of my top here. This is the bottom side. I'm gonna drill a little hole right there and cut this thing into a circle with a router jig. Another one of my favorite jigs. This router jig is awesome. Super easy to make out of just a piece of plywood, but it's even easier to buy and just use, which is what I did here. And there's still times, like I had to do an 8-foot table a while back, a round table, and obviously this thing is not even close to be big enough to do that. So I just got a piece of plywood and measured out one-time use steel. You know, I don't make 8-foot round tables every day. I do have an extension I made that I use with this all the time. It's just a piece of plywood that attaches to this jig and is still, you know, where you can move it back and forth to make different size circles. Because we do a lot of 5-foot and 6-foot tables, and that jig will not do a 5-foot or 6-foot table. So there's roughly what it's going to look like. Right now, this is just a rough sanding. I'm getting rid of the glue and stuff so I can use the router. Obviously, before final finishing, I'm going to get my router work done, because you're going to have to go back and sand it anyway. So I do a rough sanding. I do my router work. I'm doing a large round over on everything. And with this big round over bit, I'll make multiple passes. I'll do a pass, a more shallow pass, and then go back with another pass and clean it up. And I'm doing the same thing on the base here. And this little router is really easy to forget there's a fast spinning bit sticking out of the bottom of it. You could easily stick your finger in it, and I have actually done that once. So you know, it looks like I'm just flipping this thing around, but this is sped up a little bit, and I am very conscious of that router bit sticking out of the bottom of that thing, you know, going 1,000 RPM or whatever it does. I've actually stuck my finger in it once and did not enjoy that. So, yeah, be careful with it. And I had a couple big cracks in these boards for the top, so I put some epoxy in them, let that dry, and now we're going to do some final sanding, get the epoxy cleaned up, all the router cutting cleaned up, and just get a good sand. We're going to end up painting this black so it matches the furniture on our back patio. There's what it looks like right now. My wife is going to get a little cameo while she's painting this. She was very excited about being in the video. And one thing I did miss, I put some adjustable feet on the bottom of it, mostly just to get it up off the ground. So when it is wet out here, that wood is not just sitting flat on the ground. It has little feet on the bottom. And there it is, all done in place. I love how it turned out. It looks stupendous. But here's the little thing I'm talking about. You push down over a leg, it's good. You push in that corner, and it rocks. Falls over pretty easy. If you like this video, I would love you to like and subscribe. Comment below. Anything you can do helps. Thanks for watching.